All right, welcome back into another edition of Chatterbox Reds. Nick Kirby joined by my pal Mike Hart. Today, we're going to talk about what happened last week. Reds signed a whole bunch of players avoiding arbitration. Two players, though, that they did not sign that appear to be headed to arbitration. The deadline was last Thursday to exchange numbers, and if you didn't agree on a deal, then you take whatever your offer is. The player takes their offer, and you plan on going to arbitration sometime in late February, early March. However, you can still agree to a deal after that, which I know is kind of confusing, but you have to submit your number. So, for example here, I'm going to pull it up here. The players that did not agree were Graham Ashcraft and Tyler Stephenson, who we'll talk about here at the end. Graham Ashcraft filed for $1.75 million. The Reds are at $1.25. So, they can't change those numbers. If they go to arbitration, the Reds are at 1.25, Ashcraft's at 1.75. The arbitration committee judge, however that works, they choose one or the other. There's no in between. They say the Reds are right, Ashcraft's right, you move on. But the Reds and Graham Ashcraft could say, hey, let's just not do this. Let's settle at 1.5 million and we'll call it a day. And that could happen. It's happened many times before. So that's kind of where we're at. We'll run through these all and I'll give you an idea of kind of where everyone is at. But you know what you do have to do, Mike? You do have to do, because I know for a busy guy like myself, the last thing I want to do post-holidays is go shopping. Stores are crazy still. So the best thing you can do is stock up your freezer like Nicholas P. Kirby does to reset after a busy holiday season with the exceptional taste of Omaha Steaks and the convenience of having high-quality proteins on hand. Comes packaged beautifully. Everything's boxed perfectly, so it fits really nice and easy into a crowded fridge or freezer like I have. My personal favorite package is the Ultimate Favorites. That includes a butcher's cut filet mignon, butcher's cut top sirloin fillets, boneless chicken breast, classic burgers, the jumbo franks, which we are all such big fans of around here, steakhouse fries, and apple tartlets, caramel apple tartlets that are fantastic. So let Omaha Steaks deliver high-quality proteins right to your door. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their end-of-season sale. And then for an extra $35 off on top of that, use promo code Chatterbox at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code Chatterbox. Terms apply. See site for details. All right, so now to the arbitration players and what was agreed upon. The Reds, we'll start off with Brady Singer. They agreed to a deal for the final year that Brady Singer is under control for $12.8 million. The projection was 11.9 by MLB Trade Rumors, which does a fantastic job. Crazy how close they are on most of these. Reds paying $900,000 more than expected, but kind of the way the pitching market's gone this offseason, I don't think that in itself should be super surprising. Brady Singer's kind of, I guess, become somewhat of a lightning rod. Everyone wants to trade him, and I don't think you're trading him necessarily for a bat, but you would be trading him and then using that money saved to acquire a bat. Maybe it's a Rhys Hoskins that you would save with that. I made my claim to I don't think that's the right move for the Reds. But any thoughts on Brady Singer, Mike, and this deal here with the Reds in his final year of control?
Yeah, I think the how inflated, I say inflated in massive quotations, because it's obviously they agreed upon it. So it's the Reds and Brady Singer kind of agree that this is how much he's worth. And the reason why I think some people will look at that and be like, man, that's so much money for, like, compared to all the other hitters that seem to approach, maybe even contribute more. I think, Brady Singer value is actually way more than we even realize because of just how consistent he is. Somebody who's going to make 30 starts, some guys that's going to, be consistent for you, take the ball every fifth day and give you a good chance to win. So I think it does. It just kind of shows just how the industry kind of sees how valuable Brady Singer is. And that's part of why I think the Reds haven't traded him yet, because yeah, sure, they could have dumped that salary and they're basically freeing up salary, but just like they're not willing to just do that for just a salary dump because he offers a ton of value. So yeah, that number seems high, but Nick Martinez made 21.5 million last year. So it's just like the pitching market is where it is, and that's where Brady Singer stands. And I think that if he pitches all year on that salary, I don't doubt that he's going to bring back $12.7 million worth of value from what he can contribute to the Reds.
Yeah, signing free agent pitchers is not a cheap task. Mike, I've said a lot that I think you're running a big risk with trading Brady Singer, that he's the one guy that's been able to stay healthy, that's been consistent. I think he has some value, but I don't think he has like a ton of value, just because if he's making $12.8 million, if he was a free agent signing a 1-year deal, would he maybe get 20 just because it would only be 1 year? Like, that's probably about the max. So that's like $7 million of savings. So what is a team going to give up to save $7 million? Like, they're not going to give up a top 100 prospect for $7 million. Like, that's just not how this works. So you'd be getting, if it's a prospect back, you're getting maybe some lottery tickets. You're not getting much with that. So I don't think like the value is going to be much. And for me, like, I just look at like Rhys Hoskins is his name that I know has been thrown out there a lot, and I'm just like, are you sure that Hoskins is going to actually outperform what Singer is? And are you sure that the multitude of options that the Reds have to be able to be a DH isn't going to be as good or better than Hoskins? I'm not sure. I mean, you have guys like CES that I know everyone has given up on. You have Toglia now, who I know I already said his name wrong, Mike. You have Stewart, you have Steer, you have all these guys. And it's just like, I just don't know if that in the long run pays off.
Yeah, I understand. I think the other big argument, though, is that while, yes, you would be hurting your depth, and now I'm arguing from the other side here, it's just like, being able to fill in with Chase Burns and Rhett Lauder, I think, is what I think a lot of people are willing to basically bank on. They're just like, okay, hey, I know we've lost Nick Martinez, but if we're able to upgrade offensively and just slot Rhett Lauder in, the bet that they're willing to make is that Rhett Lauder can be, or some combination of Rhett Lauder and Brandon Williamson, Julian Aguiar, Chase Petty, whoever, can be enough to make it so that you get a net positive because you have the backfill. Obviously, there's risk there because of injury, because you haven't seen these guys perform at a big league level like Brady Singer has. But I can see the argument there, which is like, hey, I'm willing to risk it with the depth here in order to upgrade our offense. But Rhys Hoskins to me isn't that upgrade to the offense. You know what I mean? It's just like, so I don't know. We're getting to a point now where I think I was more open to trading him earlier in the year when we were opening up space for maybe signing Kyle Schwarber or Adolis Garcia or somebody. But now there isn't somebody out there that I'm like, clear room for this dude, please. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not sure that any benefit you would get from the hitter outweighs the benefit or the positive that you would lose by losing Brady Singer.
Yeah, exactly. Like Kyle Schwarber, like I would have been okay with it. I think that would have been that. But Rhys Hoskins, like, it just I don't know about that. And maybe there's a trade out there that the Reds could get that they would need to move salary, and maybe there's someone out there that fits that. But there's not gonna be a lot to me. I haven't brought this up before, Mike, but maybe the most creative way to handle this that I think could actually benefit the most the Reds would be hold on to Singer, and if it all goes well, like if you guys think that, hey, we have enough starting pitching, the crowd that says trade him, if that works out, then trade him at the trade deadline and go get your bat then. Number one, I think there's a good chance that Singer has more value at the trade deadline. We see teams every year that get desperate. I mean, the Reds traded for Zach Littell. They traded Adam Serwinowski. Do you think the Reds would have traded Adam Serwinowski for Zach Littell before the 2025 season? No chance they would have. But they're like, hey, we're in a race. We don't get this chance very often. We're going to, kind of go for it. And they gave up a valuable prospect. And Singer, I mean, that $13 million is significantly less if it's only 2 months. So I think Singer would have more value. It also kind of makes sure you're pretty confident with your pitching staff. Just seems like that would be the better route to go than moving Singer just simply to clear space for a player that would be an upgrade, but how much of an upgrade, I don't know, and at what cost to your strength of the team. That's where I just don't see it. I think holding him and seeing the trade deadline, if all goes well, would make the most sense to me.
Right. There's also a level of, there's the teams that just are killed with injury. They're contributing, but they're close, but they, have lost some players due to injury for their year, and they just need bodies to get you. Like the Mets would have loved to give up all kinds of prospects for somebody like Brady Singer last year. So, I think maybe that is something that you explore, and that way you also have a little bit more clarity on the guys coming back from injury, right? You'll probably have a better timetable on like a Brandon Williamson or Julian Aguilar or even Rhett Lauder, right? You'll have a better idea of where they're going to slot in and whether that's more of a, something that you'd be willing to give up to hopefully bring in a hitter. So we'll see. I mean, I don't want them to be out of it by then because they couldn't hit though, so there's risks on both sides. There's no side of this. I don't think it's a super obvious, like, oh, you should absolutely do this. I think there's definitely risk on both sides, and whatever they choose, keep him or get rid of him. I think there's going to be a risk that's taken that we'll see whether or not it pays off for the Reds.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. All right, the next guy, Gavin Lux. Gavin Lux gets $5.5 million. He's also in his final year of team control. Was projected at $5 million by MLB trade rumors, so that's $500,000 more. Obviously, Gavin Lux is a player that I think just about this entire fan base wants to trade. I'm mostly there. Like I think it's hard to really make sense of that deal. I've kind of waffled a little bit on him, and I've talked myself into the whole contract year, and just that if I was advising Gavin Lux, if he's playing his baseball in Cincinnati, I'd be like, dude, try to hit 20 home runs. You actually, not to steal your point, but you brought up a really great point that if Gavin Lux could just have TJ Friedl's power kind of with the rest of his game, getting on base, hitting for a pretty high average, I mean, that's a really solid player. So the problem with Gavin Lux, in my opinion, I think he's probably worth that amount of money, but just for the Reds with this tight budget and having a second baseman that they believe in, that's where it's hard to make sense of it.
Yeah, that type of player playing basically DH, the left side platoon of a DH, feels like a luxury the Reds can't afford. So let me ask you this, Nick. What if the Reds trade Gavin Lux for like a low A guy? A guy who's not nothing. He's maybe in the top 10 of a team's prospect list, but is not, he's not on the top 100. And then they sign somebody like an Austin Hayes. I'm not saying Austin Hayes, but somebody for basic. I mean, $5 million is what Austin Hayes we signed him for last year, going into the year. Would you be okay with that? Somebody that maybe you could play in at DH and be better. You basically flip Gavin Lux for one of these free agents who hasn't gotten the long-term deal that they wanted, and you get a prospect out of it as well. What are your thoughts on something like that?
I think Hayes is going to command a lot more than $5
million.
Oh,
I'm not saying specifically Hayes. I'm saying somebody like a Hayes who, you'd be projecting a bounce back, right?
Yeah, I see where you're at. Even like an Andujar maybe would be the better. Yeah. I could maybe be okay with that, but I don't know. It's one of those things where, like it's not it saves salary, but is it enough that it actually gets a bat? Like the one I would have done that everyone really loved. My take on would have been I would have loved Josh Bell. And I think he signed for less than Gavin Lux. Like I think Josh Bell would be a better fit for this team as like just a pure DH that Gavin Lux. Um, the other thing with Gavin Lux is, though, we didn't really get to see him play second base because Matt McLain did stay healthy. But let's say Matt McLain doesn't stay healthy, or he does just completely fall off a cliff. Lux does become significantly more valuable to this franchise. We talked about Sal Stewart and JJ Cooper of Baseball America pointed out that, like, this guy's not a good defender anywhere. He could probably play first base good, but this guy's arm is one of the worst in the sport. So I think he would get really exposed out there at second base, definitely at third base. So I don't know. It's one of those things. It feels like, to me, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like, I could totally see them trading this guy, and he goes to Tampa Bay, and like he hits 20 home runs, and you're like, and you sign someone else, and it's just like a complete bust. I don't know. The one thing I do hope, though, Mike, I don't think this is, but I hope this isn't we're not going to trade him because we made a mistake acquiring him. I hope that's not into the calculus here. You could certainly see how it could be. You give up Mike Soroka. The trade looks really bad now as Sirota flew up the prospect charts last year before getting hurt. Looks like a bona fide, potential star. I hope that's not part of the equation, but it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting too because I think he's penciled. I would imagine that there's going to be some interesting platoon with Gavin Lux with Steer and Sal. Like this, like Sal DHs against lefties and Steer plays first, and then Sal plays first against righties, and Gavin Lux DHs. Something like that that we would see moved around during, at least initially to start the season if Gavin Lux is the starting. Is the starting on this club on opening day. So I think that is one thing that Tito did do is, like, I don't think Gavin Lux I think was used a lot as platoon for that, especially at the end of the year. Kind of just realizes, like, hey, this is the guy that we're going to go and he's facing righties, and we're going to try to get him out of there for lefties. So we'll see. We'll see how that is. I would love for, just a little bit of a change to his profile where he's just like pulling the ball. We see 15 home runs, all of them to right field, where it's just like he's out in front and he like takes him out there and, clears that short Great American Ballpark fence out there, maybe rings a couple off the foul pole. Like, it's that would be great. I think that'd be a great way for him to add a lot of value to what, he brings approach wise and to the plate. So we'll see. I think I'm still of the mind where I think I'd like to. I think I'd prefer using that $5 million to bring somebody with higher power upside. But we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with the Reds.
All right, Nick Lodolo, the next guy. Lodolo signs for $4.725 million. Projection was 4.3, just a difference of $425K. I don't really have a lot on this. This is kind of what we expected. Nick Lodolo is obviously a great pitcher. This is.
I don't have much on this one either. Just like, that sounds about right.
The next one's a little more interesting. TJ Friedl, how about only getting $3.8 million? It was projected at 4.9, a difference of $900,000. I was a little surprised that Friedl just accepted this and didn't try to take it to arbitration to get at least, maybe Friedl files over 4 somewhere. This was probably the most shocking one to me out of these deals. And again, we don't know the full calculation of what exactly they value in this. It seems like there's conflicting reports sometimes on it. But this one definitely surprised me.
Yeah, interesting too. I think this is the example where it's like, they were overestimate for Gavin Lux, kind of just came out in the wash with your under projection with TJ Friedl. It's something that it does seem low compared to what this guy does offer for you, but I think ultimately it makes sense for what we have, and I still I still, with what they've put together, I would not be surprised if TJ Friedl gets moved in some capacity this year. I know that's gonna be devastating to some people because he does offer, he's a hustle guy that's going to be going super hard, diving into walls, robbing home runs, laying down bunts, things like that. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Reds are, he's 29, so he's getting up there when it comes to your prospect levels. It's just like, hey, let's flip TJ Friedl for something down the line, just because they don't project him being somebody that is you know contributing to the future Reds teams, and maybe somebody like JJ Bleday or Will Benson has really broken out, and it's just like, this is going to be our center fielder for the rest of the year.
Deep South Commodities is a proud supporter of Chatterbox Reds and our Deep Drive of the Day, and DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC. And we also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. Tony Santillan, Reds get him for $1.8 million. He was projected at $2.4. So Reds get a little bit of a bargain on Tony. Obviously, this is great for Tony, though. He's earned, I think, every penny of that $1.8 million. A guy that got DFA'd at one point, battled back. I mean, that dude pitched every other night all year long for this team. So very deserving for him. I'm happy he got that. But I think a good bargain here for the Reds.
Yeah, I agree. I would probably expect him to get more saves next year, or this upcoming year too, because I think Tito kind of just like fell into a nice rhythm of just like, hey, these guys are, whoever is freshest is the guy that I'm sending out there to get my most critical outs, and sometimes that's the eighth inning. So we'll see. I think that there's going to be a little bit more of, it's not just always going to be Pagan in the ninth inning. I think we're going to see some Santillan, because I think he's shown that he can be nails there. And hopefully rotating that type of thing is going to keep him a little bit more fresh as well.
Yeah, Emilio Pagan clearly kind of showed that when he was fresh, it was a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
When you were able to give him consistent days off. And yeah, Santillan gives you that luxury of feeling okay giving Emilio Pagan a day off. Where you go, hey, we're in it for the 162. It's better if Emilio doesn't pitch today. And I don't really think you're dropping that much off with Santillan. So, if any, in fact, at times I felt like Santillan was the better pitcher than Pagan. Although I'm happy to have Pagan back. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm with you on that. Spencer Steer, Reds get him for $4 million. He was projected at 4.5, so the Reds $500,000 less. Spencer Steer just feels like the guy to me that said, I'm not going to arbitration. I'm not over 500,000. I don't want to deal with this. That's exactly what I thought when I saw this deal.
Yeah, and if you think about it, Spencer Steer's season was so interesting. Like, the Reds did him no favors putting him on the opening day roster. He was so clearly hurt, and he couldn't play in the field because he couldn't throw, and then had just like the worst month and a half of his entire career while they're just as our DH. So yeah, I expect hopefully a bounce back there as well. Just, if he can stay healthy, I think that what we got at the end of the year, a guy that was hitting lefties pretty well, played great defense at first base, is somebody that I think can be a contributor. Now, I don't want him batting second, in this lineup, but it's something that I think that with what he provides defensively, that's a good number that I feel very comfortable with.
Yeah, one of the strangest seasons you'll ever see Was so bad early. Played pretty solid baseball. Was an above average hitter from May 1st on. Guy that was always known as a really bad defender. That was a Gold Glove finalist, and the jury's out on how good he is at first base, but he clearly was not a liability there. It was way better than I think any of us anticipated. So what Spencer Steer does in 2026, I have no clue. I really don't. If he's a below average hitter, it wouldn't surprise me. If he is able to get back up to like that 110 WRC plus, that would surprise me, where he's just like really on the fringe of like a valuable first baseman at that or not. We'll see. Interesting player for sure. Will Benson, right on the nose, projected at 1.7, signs at 1.7. I'm a Will Benson believer, and I will not apologize for it.
No, I am too. Hopefully, I'm glad to see that number's still climbing for him. I think we saw a world where he might get DFA'd this year. So, seeing him continuing, hey, we're here with the Reds, and I'm excited to see him try to earn a spot here in spring training.
And his ability to play center field, I think that really that changed a little bit. I think of the equation for him was that he played center field. He looked like at least a average. I thought an above average center fielder defensively. And so that, to me, really, I think, raised his value for this team. Matt McLain was the last player, and by I mean last, was actually after the deadline ended. There's actually a report that Matt McLain was likely headed to arbitration. The Reds ended up getting him for $2.3 million. It was projected at $2.6, a $300,000 difference. McLain would have been an easy choice if I was going through this of players that would end up going to arbitration. Just because he had such an interesting case because he was an all-star caliber player, easily an all-star caliber player in 2023. Did play it all in 2024. And then 2025, well, yes, he was not great offensively. He still was a 1.4 wins above replacement player. That's higher than Spencer Steer.
It's wild. Yeah.
And so, like, he was interesting, and I'm guessing that the Reds were maybe trying to get him at even less, and then eventually just said, all right, we'll do 2.3, and we're able to get out of it at the last minute. I don't really know exactly how that went down. But glad he didn't go into arbitration. I feel like Matt McLain of all players, like I just don't want anything else hanging over this guy's head. Like, let's just get into a new season. I'm still a Matt McLain believer. I think that I just believe it's in there. I really do. Obviously, Reds save a little bit here.
Yeah. Do you think that it going all the way down to the deadline was because they're potentially talking about extensions? Like I know we talked about last year that he declined an extension, and he's probably not happy that he did that because of the season that he just had. But do you think that they were potentially having talks about that, and then ultimately, when they knew they weren't getting anything done by the deadline, they just settled on a number?
It's possible. I certainly think the Reds should be, but if I was advising Matt McLain, I'd be like, if you already bet on yourself last year, do it again. Like,
yeah,
like
can't
why
be
would
much
you?
Worse.
Why would you want to sign a contract now? Like, just you made this bed, you stick with it. You try to write it out. You try to have a big year and see where you're at next year. That's kind of where I would be. The two players, Mike, that are going to arbitration, two very different ones. We'll start with Graham Ashcraft. So Graham Ashcraft filed at $1.75 million. The Reds file at $1.25 million. So your refresher is the arbitrator will have to choose one or the other. Pretty big difference, $500,000 difference for a guy making under $200,000 or under $2 million is a pretty wide gap. My take here is I am imagining that from the Reds' perspective, they're saying this guy's a reliever entering his first year of arbitration and, doesn't really have much of a track record. And I'm sure from Ashcraft, he's like, hey, I've been used as a starter, and there's no guarantee the Reds won't use me as a starter again in 2026 if things happen and they need a starter. So that's probably where the hang-up is. From the Reds' perspective, I think this is a worthwhile going to arbitration. $500,000 for a guy only making less than $2 million. Like, that's a pretty big difference there. And I don't blame them to go into arbitration with Graham Ashcraft. Ashcraft's already been through the ringer with the Reds, like where there's been some back and forth, and they seem like they were fine last year. But I don't think this is really. I think both sides probably understand where the other one's from, even if they don't like it.
Right. Yeah, and that makes sense. I think the Reds view him as, all right, your time for starting has passed. It's like, it's like similar to somebody like a Michael Lorenzen, right? Some guy that started and then went to the bullpen and was like, no, we're not moving you back. We've slated you in as our setup guy or one of our seventh inning guy, and that's how we intend to keep you there.
The next one, Tyler Stephenson. This is so dumb. I gotta be honest. So Stephenson, the Reds file at $6.55 million. Stephenson filed at $6.8 million. I could get the whole just trial and file and trial thing, I guess, that the Reds do. That's such a small amount for Tyler Stephenson to just do it. I could totally see though a deal with Tyler Stephenson being done. Maybe the Reds. This would be an interesting thought here, Mike. If the Reds do have a couple $1 million left over, could they give Stephenson a little bit more of a raise? Could they maybe pay him $8 million and find a way to get an extra year?
Yeah, buy out another year. Yeah,
buy out another year. We'll pay $8 million plus we'll give you we'll do a $20 million club option or something like that, or
something
maybe
like
not. It had to be less than
steep.
20 steep because they could do the qualifying offer.
Qualifying offer,
and that would be better. Maybe like $15 million, maybe something like that.
Something like that
could make sense if it was a club option.
Yeah. I would imagine they're definitely going to discuss that. And we've seen this with the Reds before. It's like before going to arbitration, maybe we get a deal like this where we buy out a couple extra years on Stephenson's contract. Because an interesting thing about it is it's like Stephenson, I think, has shown that he can be a very big positive offensively. Positive there. And then while he is not amazing defensively framing wise, he got a lot better defensively, plus ABS is coming, right? So there's some of these egregious pitches that we see him not frame can just be caught in a challenge for. So I think that there's going to be a uptick on his value there as well. And I know if you think about going a couple of years down the line, I think what you might be able to do is basically buy yourself time to see whether Duno is the real deal. Is kind of because Duno is not available this year. He's going to be. He was in low A. He's probably starting in high A, and maybe we see him to Chattanooga in double A, right? But if you can buy a couple years additional on Tyler Stephenson, you basically can get to the point where it's like you expect Duno to be ready. And either he's the real deal, he's the next Sal Perez, and you're like, yes, bring this guy up here. And then you say, thank you, Tyler Stephenson. Would you like to be our backup or let him go in free agency? Or you can say, all right, Stephenson is good for what we have. Maybe we think about extending him a little bit more. So what I think that, if they're able to do some sort of extension, it basically buys you time to determine whether or not Duno is a cornerstone or Duno is somebody that's, going to be frankly kind of like Tyler Stephenson, somebody that you bring up and is a good contributor, but is not, all-star level.
That was exactly my takeaway. Is buy time for Duno.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like you'd be able to. Duno's obviously not going to be ready to take over the reins in 2027.
Right.
I think you're hoping maybe he could debut in 2027, but Reds have also shown in recent memory they like to ease their catchers in. Like with Tyler Stephenson. He was a DH in 2020. Now, 2020 was a weird year, but even 2021, when he was clearly the better catcher than Tucker Barnhart, Tucker Barnhart still played more, and they kind of eased Tyler in. And so I would see the same thing with Duno. So, yeah, if you're able to work a deal, I all for a 2-year extension or something like that, or maybe you do pay Stephenson a little bit more. And that would be those are the kind of things that may not. may not show up on people. People may not like get excited about like giving Tyler Stephenson an extra money if you have extra money left. But man, it's like a good investment if you're able to get a couple more years out of it. That makes building a team, in the Ellie window that we have right now, a lot easier. Because if you have Tyler Stephenson at a cost controlled price, it makes it a lot easier to kind of build a team around him. So. We shall see. Any other final thoughts here on these arbitration final things that we're at?
No, I don't think so. There's no shocker. I don't think on any of them, but we'll see how that. See if we get to spring training. When's the arbitration? Do you know the date that they have to?
There's no official date. No official date. They said these happen late February, early March. So
okay.
Yeah.
So we could be in a spring training already before it gets decided. Okay, because pitchers and catchers report around Valentine's Day every year. So
yeah. I'm pretty sure it'll be after spring training happens, and that makes sense. They don't have to like fly these guys in or anything. Like they're just do it
in Arizona,
do it a conference room at the Reds complex, and all right, cool. Yeah, you didn't win. Let's go practice. Like it's gonna be a weird situation. I've heard a lot of great stories about arbitration. Sean Casey had a great arbitration story with Jim Bowden, and certainly an interesting time. I think people used to get their feelings hurt a lot more by it. Players did back in the day. I think now most players this is the business. Like this is there's nothing more to this, and I don't think there's a whole lot of hurt feelings anymore.
Yeah, I think the availability and usage of statistics kind of takes a lot of that feelings out of it as well. So
that's true. Because before it was like you had to rail your players, like where now it's just like these are the stats.
This is a bad clubhouse guy. This is a guy that can't hit in the clutch, and it's just like it feels awful to be sitting there and hear your team tell you to your face that you feel you are that way. Now they just here are our numbers based on how well you hit in high leverage situations, and this is why we think you're. It's just like, well, okay. Hard to argue with that.
And this catcher 2 years ago only got this amount of money.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Yeah. And then after they're done, they're like, we're just joking about everything we said. You're a big part of our team.
Big part of our success this year.
We need you. All right. Well, Mike, this is a lot of fun. Appreciate you coming on today. And then obviously our show yesterday as well. Mike always have great insight. We'll continue to cover this off season as it develops for your Cincinnati Reds. Planning on a new episode tomorrow with Craig Sandlin on Wednesday. Talking about the Reds TV deal, where that stands, kind of going through all of that and what's next for the Reds with that. And as always, we'll continue to follow all the late-breaking news and keep it here. Chatterbox Sports, all kinds of content here on YouTube and everywhere you get podcasts. Check out the episode notes below for all of that. All right. Take care, everyone. Go Reds.